Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is June 6, 2023 and we are getting into the volume 110 of me answering your immigration related questions. As you can see, I have all your comments pulled up in front of me. As always, before starting this video, as I do with every video, I'm gonna say that I am not an immigration attorney. This is not a legal advice. All the information provided in these videos on this channel are directly from official government sources like USCIS and of course the Department of State with their visa bulletin. So let's start with the very first comment from Walal Zaki. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing the name. Walal says, how long does NVC take to schedule interview after documentarily qualified? Walal, thank you very much for your question. That's a great question. So it really depends. It depends on which category you're in. That's one of the things that it really depends on. Because if you are in immediate relative category, which means that once USCIS approves the I-130 petition, that's it, the immigrant visa is already available. You're not dealing with the visa backlog, you're not dealing with the visa bulletin, you don't need to look at it, that's it. Once everything is approved, by the time you're already documentarily qualified, the immigrant visa is already available. In those situations, it really depends on the US Embassy, the consulate, or for example, if the interview is going to be here in one of the field offices, if the beneficiary is here in the United States of America, how fast, how available they are, how fast they can schedule the appointment. Most of the times it is US Embassy because it's, most of the times beneficiaries are outside of the United States of America. So in those situations, you have to give a month, possibly a little bit more for all the administrative stuff, for NVC to send the case, to put the whole package and send it to the US Embassy. Another thing you have to keep in mind is that US Embassy, they cannot schedule you the interview longer than 30 days in advance, right? So if they, for example, if they would schedule, let's say you're waiting for an interview, and let's say that they have an available appointment right now for September 1st, 2023. So in like 3 months, less than 3 months. They won't be able to send you that interview notice right now because they would actually have to wait up until August 1st to send you that notice, so that there is 30 days between the notice and the interview. And the reason why it is done is because you have to do the medical examination within 30 days. Hopefully this requirement is going to be, they get rid of this requirement, because honestly I think it is a silly requirement. 30 days, 60 days should be more than enough, but whatever. I'm not the Department of State, I'm not the Department of Homeland Security, so let them decide. But now you see, like for example, if US Embassy in your country, if they are a little bit busier than somewhere else, they might take a little bit longer. I've seen these interviews in immediate relative category take as fast as like 3-4 months schedule the interview, and I've seen them take as long as like 9 months, a little bit over 9 months in immediate relative category. However, if you are dealing with the visa backlog, if you are in one of those family preference categories, F1, F2, F3, F4, in that case, it will depend on the availability of the immigrant visa. So for example, you are documentarily qualified, let's say recently, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, but you are in F1, right? And you are documentarily qualified, but let's say your priority date is back in let's say June 2015, and that would be people with the priority date back in June 2015, right around this time they should be already done with their becoming documentarily qualified. But as you can see, according to the visa bulletin, the availability of the immigrant visa is for people with a priority date back in December 2014, which means from June 2015 to December 2014, roughly 6 months. So you are looking at the interview at least 6 months ahead. And then of course it depends on the availability of the scheduling window with the US Embassy. So if you want, you can let me know if you are in immediate relative category, or if you are in one of those family preference categories that's dealing with the backlog. If you are dealing with the backlog, let me know the category, let me know the priority date and chargeability area, and I will be able to give you some rough estimates. One thing, if you are in immediate relative category, one thing that you can do, and I would recommend doing, there's nothing bad in doing it, is you can reach out to the US Embassy in your home country, and ask them. Say, hey guys, I'm an immediate relative category. My immigrant visa should already be available. I was just wondering if you can give me approximately when the interview is going to be scheduled. They might say, no, we can't give you that information. Or they might say, sure, we will take a look. Yeah, our next available appointment, or you were scheduled in 4 months, 5 months. Just wait for the notice. After the notice, do the medical examination, and then come for an interview. So that's really it. Hopefully you find my answer helpful. I'm gonna post this and we're gonna move on to the next question from OKL Esti Mojisola. Sorry for mispronouncing the name, I probably am. Why is my case taking longer than expected to process? OKL, sorry you're dealing with this. So if your case is still with USCIS and it is outside of normal processing times, then I would highly recommend submitting the case inquiry with USCIS. The way you do it is, I'm going to use this as a for demonstration purposes how to find this. We're going to go to tools, and this is official government website for USCIS, US Citizenship and Immigration Services. You can find the link in the description below. We're going to go to tools, we're going to go to case status online, and this is the page where you can check the information on your case using the receipt number that you have gotten on your notice that you received, the initial notice after the I-130 was submitted. And then submit case inquiry right here, visit page, and if it is already outside of normal processing times, this is what you're going to click on, and then you'll fill out this information and submit it. This is if the case is taking longer with USCIS. If it's stuck with the NVC, then you do the same thing at the Department of State website. This is the Department of State website specifically for the visa bulletin. You can find the link in the description below. If you click on it, this is the page that's gonna show up. So on this page, we're gonna click at the very top right here, contact us. I'm gonna actually open it in new tab so that I don't close it. And then you'll scroll down a little bit, you will see US visas contacts. We're gonna click on this. And then scroll down a little bit more. And then you will see public inquiry form in this very first row of this table, public inquiry form right here. So we're gonna click on this. We'll scroll down a little bit more, and then you will see online immigrant visa inquiries only, public inquiry form. So that's the last link that we need to click on. And there we go. Here's the public inquiry form. You'll have to put in the NVC case number or USCIS receipt number, beneficiary's full name, beneficiary's date of birth, petitioner's full name, who you are, petitioner, beneficiary, email address, and then the inquiry. And obviously, like I was explaining to Walal, if you're already documentarily qualified and if you're just still waiting for the interview, the best thing to do, if you know that the immigrant visa should already be available, is to reach out to US Embassy. And as for the general question of why some of the cases are taking longer, it's just the nature of the problem that we have with specifically the family category, because it seems to be neglected the most whenever it comes to legislation, whenever it comes to updates and any kind of movement, any kind of progress, whenever in general in the field of immigration. Family reunification cases, they seem to be neglected the most. That's why we see visa bulletin, it only the backlog, it is only growing. It is only getting worse. Unfortunately, it's really sad, because you would think that, from 2000s, early 2000s, from 1997, Department of State would think, okay, you know what, the backlog is growing, it's getting worse, we need to do something. And 20 something plus years, and it's only getting worse. It's really sad. And then the same thing with USCIS, because the visa bulletin is, the backlog is so bad on the immigrant visas for families. You see even the processing times for the I-130 petition in a lot of service centers, it gets, people who checked it, 6 months ago, they were shown a different processing times. And now the processing times that are being shown on USCIS website, they're longer than they were before. And the reason for that is, for some reason, families just to U.S. government is not a priority. I guess I can't say it any different. I'm sorry, I just can't say it any different. I covered this topic quite a lot, and anytime there is news from USCIS or there's news from the Department of State, if there is a representative from the Department of State that is announcing some updates, I always am on it, and I always update all the people who are subscribed to this channel about it. And most of the times, and I've done already this for the past, years. For years I've been doing this now. Every time you check this, and it's like the updates that they're doing is like for the investor visas, for work visas, right? All the where there's money involved and stuff. And then at the very end, you get to the family, and they're like, oh yeah, we're working on it. And that's it. It's sad. It's really sad. So sorry, OKL. I wish I could, give you more reassuring, more hopeful information, but it's just not looking hopeful at all, unfortunately. Okay, moving further to Rizwan Khan. Can rejected refugee living in camp can get sponsored by Welcome Corps 2 or relative? Rizwan, yeah, absolutely. So there is really no, as long as, especially whenever it comes to relative, especially whenever it comes to I-130 petition, as long as you fall within the certain category, certain relative of somebody who's a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident, if it's a spouse or if it's a parent and you're under 21, or something along those lines, or if it's a U.S. citizen and your spouse or child of a U.S. citizen, then yeah, absolutely, they can petition for you, and it will play a certain role whenever it comes to the questions, especially when you're going through the final. If you're a refugee, then it means you're here in the United States of America. So most likely you're going to have your interview here in the United States rather than U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate, unlike many other beneficiaries. So of course there will be questions regarding your refugee status, but as long as everything was done properly and everything was submitted and you never were out of status, you don't have any inadmissibility clauses, basically, let's just say that, then you should be good. And even if you do have any kind of inadmissibility clauses, there's always, you can always submit a waiver for inadmissibility. In that case, I would recommend reaching out to an immigration attorney if you're dealing with waivers. But overall, whenever it comes to the process, petitioning for someone, it's really straightforward. It's much more straightforward than the refugee. So if you're already a refugee, granted refugee status, then you've been through the toughest stuff whenever it comes to the immigration. The only downside to the petitioning, like I was explaining, in the past two of my replies, is the time. Is that you will have to wait quite a long time, but it is definitely doable. Alrighty, let's move on to the next question or comment from Fred M. Johnson. Thank you for this video. God bless you. Fred, God bless. Thank you very much. I'm glad you found this helpful. Lambo, thank you so much, man. Lambo, you're very welcome. I'm glad you found my answer helpful, or hopefully you did. Moving further to Benjamin. Is USCIS the processing time accurate I-130? Ben, unfortunately, it's really hard to answer this question and say, yes, it's accurate, because, for example, a few months ago, like I was responding to, I think I was responding to either OKL or Walal, what happened was, and I'll show you, I'll actually show you so that's understandable. We're going to go to Tools, Case Status Online, and we're going to wait till it loads. USCIS processing times, visit page. There you go. So I-130, whatever, we'll do this U.S. citizen filing for spouse, or let's do a category that's actually weighted. Let's do brother, married son or daughter. Let's do this one, and then let's do California Center. So what happened was, for a lot of categories, quite a few, because I did get, and I'm still getting the comments like this. Certain people in certain categories, they would come to this page, they would check just, few months ago, literally few months ago. And they would say, for this part, same exact thing, U.S. citizen filing for a married son or daughter, I-130 petition, California Service Center. It would show like 80 months, and now it's showing 106 months. Why this happens? So the reason why it happens is because, like I said, the backlog for these family immigration cases, family reunification cases, keeps on growing. And USCIS understands that too. So when there is this ridiculous amount of time that you have to wait on the NVC side, on the Department of State side, waiting for the immigrant visa to become available, because there's a cap, there's a limited amount of visas available each year. And each year there's more applications than there is visas. So the backlog, it only gets worse. It only keeps on growing. And we can see the June visa bulletin, June 2023, was a great example of it. Horrible example of it. Not great in a good, but big example of, showing that it's getting worse. Because from May 2023 to June 2023, there's absolutely no movement. It was literally a copy paste. So it means that all of the categories is getting worse. So with the backlog that's growing, the processing for USCIS side, it really doesn't really make a lot of sense to forward the resources on processing these applications that they will be approved and then moved to the NVC, and then after they're moved to NVC, then they will be sitting in NVC for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. So it's much more cost efficient, resource efficient for USCIS to just put them on the back shelf and wait until closer they see that, okay, so the immigrant visa is going to be available soon for that case. Let's finally review that. And that's why you see that the times that were shown before, they were not updated, they were not moving. That's why a lot of these cases, they have been outside of normal processing times. And of course, when the case is outside of normal processing times is when you can submit that inquiry. If they move it 20 months back and increase the processing time, 20 months, 30 months, it means that for the next 20, 30 months, they don't have to deal with all these inquiries coming from people, from families that are, wondering why their case is outside of normal processing time. So for them, it only made sense to increase these processing times on most of these family categories. And I haven't seen any comments yet from anyone that have talked about the processing times growing on USCIS website for any other category, any other application, petition, except the I-130. And perhaps that's because most of the people who are viewers of this channel, of these videos, are dealing with I-130 in the family reunification cases. But at the same time, judging by the way Department of Homeland Security and USCIS and everybody else treating these family cases, I honestly would not be surprised. It's really sad, Ben, unfortunately. And I wish I could give you a definitive answer, but at the end of the day, no, these times are not accurate, because you can wait for 106 months, and then by the time you get to 106 months, you log into this and check, and it's now 136 months, because it doesn't really matter for USCIS, because, well, you're either waiting here or you're waiting at the NVC. You might as well wait here while they're concentrating on all the other things that are happening. It's really sad. Honestly, it's really sad. Okay, moving further to Susie and Jordak. Thank you so much. You guys are very welcome. Hopefully they will drop the COVID vaccine requirement. I hope they do it soon. It is completely unfair. 100%. We're staying on top of this, and I'll keep on checking, and once there is any update on that, I'll definitely make a video. It's gonna be the whole separate news update on this channel. Alright, moving further to ZC. Dear, curious, are you an immigration attorney? Is there any way that I can DM you, Twitter, or any communication app? Thanks. ZC, thank you. I appreciate the these kind of inquiries. I appreciate that people want to reach out to me directly and want to work with me. The thing is, I'm not an immigration attorney, and I don't have any kind of immigration practice outside of this channel. This is completely free. I'm not selling any service. I'm not selling any product. Nothing. There's no no bond, no contract between us. And there's a few reasons why I keep it this way, and I will keep it this way. Is because, of course, I want to have trust. Because when you pay someone, there's already a contractual relationship, there's already expectations, there's already services that need to be rendered. I don't want to do that. I want this to be built on trust. You come here because you trust on what I say, that if you ask me a question, that I give you the information back that is reliable, that is from official government sources, that does not have any kind of hook, basically like, oh, I'm giving you this a little bit, but then if you can come back and hire me and pay me, I'll give you the rest. I don't want that. I was in contractual relationships like this with people who work in immigration field, and sometimes they were all right. No, they were never all right, honestly. With people that I have been in contractual relationship, they're not good at all. So I want to maintain that. And another reason is that this channel, I think there's much more important stuff than making money and all of this. God bless me with I have enough, okay, and I don't really need to offer any kind of services. I really want to help a lot of people because I myself am an immigrant, and I myself have family petitions, and I know that this is one of the areas of immigration that is really, really let down and not doing very well. So if I can help in any way, I feel like I have to do that. So thank you very much, ZC. I appreciate it, but unfortunately, I just don't do anything else. If you have any questions, post them on this channel, on any of the videos. Just make sure don't respond to my comment within your comment. Submit a separate comment with whatever questions you have regarding the immigration, and I'll do my best. Just don't put any personal information. The only personal information that I'm asking for is priority date, the category, the chargeability area, that kind of stuff, obviously. Alrighty, let's move on to the next one. From Amanda Oliveros. Amanda says, I think I messed up in the consular office part 1. In the consular office part, I put the right country, just not the office. Oh, what will happen? Okay, Amanda. So don't stress too much. It's not going to be too much of the problem. What most likely is going to happen, if you really did make a mistake, then you would have to. Then they will themselves ask you to fill out a form I-824. Don't rush doing anything now. You can, if it's still with USCIS, try reaching out to them. I know it's really hard. It's ridiculously hard, honestly, and it's becoming harder and harder to get somebody on the phone. But you still can. Try reaching them out on the phone and ask them, and maybe they will. Maybe they're probably not going to be able to correct your mistake, but they might tell you, hey, this is the address where you need to send the cover letter, the statement saying, hey, if you can update, please in the application, and then you can send it, and then they can update it. But the worst case scenario, and it's not bad at all, but the worst case scenario is once your petition is approved by USCIS, you will get a letter asking to fill out the form I-824. And 824 basically is the kind of like a request on an approved petition. And if there is some kind of information that is missing, or the location of the beneficiary changed and it's now processed, not instead of, like, for example, a field office here, it's processed in one of the U.S. embassies somewhere outside of the United States. In those situations, they updated it, and basically on the approved petition. I don't have a video on how to fill that out yet, but I am gonna find that I-824 and I'm gonna post it in the link. Don't do anything with it just yet. Just kind of familiarize yourself with it, so that just in case if they do request you to file it, you already know what it is, how it looks, and it's really straightforward. And maybe by then I'll actually make a video specifically on this form, on how to fill it out. It's very straightforward. It's a very simple form, so really nothing to worry about, Amanda. So let me put this, and I'm gonna put link And again, this is just for your informational purposes, because there is a chance that you might not even need to do that. I would reach out to the USCIS and see if maybe you can correct it if there really is a mistake. Alrighty, moving further to Mr. Vo. Mr. Vo, thank you for another comment. Appreciate that. The fee for hiring lawyers to do the EB3 unskilled worker visa is 15 to 25,000 per petition. Wow. I was wondering how to self-file it. I imagine the hardest part is acquiring the job contacts from employers. Yes, Mr. Vo, absolutely. So whenever it comes to employment-based visas in general, you're 100% correct. The hardest part is finding someone, an employer, that is willing to sponsor you. And that's really it. Honestly, I'm not familiar with the EB3 specifically. I'm gonna check on it. But the thing is, whenever it comes to work visas, it's really most of the work that is being done is by the employer, because they're the ones that are filing the petition on behalf of their prospective employee. Really, the only thing is that you're submitting the applications, you're finding the employer, you're going for the interviews, and then if they hire you, you sign that preliminary contract that says that, okay, we're gonna sponsor you with USCIS, with the Department of Labor, and if you are, if all is well, then you become our official employee. Obviously, because they cannot officially hire you and you can start working. Although in some of the categories, they even allow you a temporary placement within their company until the application is approved. So, but it really depends on which employment category that we're talking. But at the end of the day, really most of the work is done by the employer. So I would not be surprised if the attorneys are charging the employers that much money for that visa, for that employment-based visa. Because yes, the application is pretty bulky. When you're petitioning for an employee, it's pretty bulky, and there's a lot of stuff that is involved. Department of Labor, you have to reach out to them and basically get permission from them. It's a lengthy process. But I just don't really see the reason for an employee to hire an immigration attorney at all to deal with literally any of this, because most of the stuff is done by the employer. So the employee, the only thing that they need to worry about is just finding that employer, like you said. Alrighty, let me pause this. We're gonna move on to the next one. Looks like from Benjamin, couple of the same questions that I already responded to. Let me just pause this. Ben, I'm sorry, I didn't get it as fast to these comments. I apologize, and I appreciate you posting it again. And I want to apologize to everyone if I don't get to your comment within few days. It probably got buried down. So if it's urgent, if you really need a response, please repost it on any of the videos, but just repost it, because sometimes I'm starting to get more and more comments and questions, and sometimes I'm not able to get to them on time. Satpal Sidhu says, very helpful, thanks Sat. I'm glad this was helpful. Let's move on further to Branko Mandik. Branko says, hi, where is the link to the video where I can send the inquiry letter saying? Thanks. So inquiry letter. So Branko, I'm gonna ask you a question. I don't even think I have a separate video on filing the inquiry, but who you are trying to send the inquiry with? Because what I'm gonna do is, instead of the video, I'm gonna give you two links. I'm gonna give you a link for USCIS, and also in a separate comment I'll give you the link for the NVC, because there's only two really you can do inquiries, and most likely if you are on this channel, most likely you're dealing with I-130 family immigration petition. So here is the inquiry for USCIS if your case is outside of normal processing times. That's really one of the only reasons you can submit it, if your case is outside of normal processing times, unfortunately. And also, let's see, link for NVC inquiry. Let me see, link for USCIS. inquiry. There we go. And then link for NVC inquiry. There you go. It's already here. Boom. So you don't have to search for it, and you can just find it. So whichever one, it really depends on which stage of of the process, of the family reunification process your petition is in. If it's with USCIS, then you file the inquiry with USCIS. But keep in mind, you can only file the inquiry with USCIS if your case is outside of normal processing times, or if there's some kind of issue, there's some kind of like a mistake or something like this. And if it is already with NVC, then obviously you submit the public inquiry with the NVC. Alrighty, so thank you everyone for today, for your questions. Really appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. As always, appreciate your time. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate. As many questions as you have, they are always welcome on this channel. Thanks again for watching. God bless. I'll see you all in the next video.